This afternoon, we'll see Michigan State taking on Wisconsin, and one of the storylines in this game has been how much could the Spartans possibly have left after two gut-wrenching losses against Michigan and against Ohio State. Resiliency, it's a theme that college football coaches love to harp on. One particular Spartan knows that resiliency extends far beyond the football field.
I'm walking down the street sometime and, smell like a really awful smell or something like that. I would just think of like the dead bodies back there.
Haunting reminders for the Michigan State running back of a war-ravaged life he narrowly escaped. Jehuu Caulcrick was born in Liberia in 1983 when peace still prevailed, but civil unrest loomed. By the mid-1980s, the government was under siege. Jehu's father, a security chief for Liberia's Secretary of State, was forced to flee the country and leave his family behind. Staying with them would have risked their lives.
Even if you were just a friend to them, they will kill you.
5 years later, Jehu's mother, Benita, had separated from Jehu's father and met an American businessman in Liberia. She moved to the United States to marry him and tried to obtain visas for her children, who had stayed in Liberia with their grandparents. But before Jehuu and his sister Mardia could leave, civil war erupted, a vicious war that would eventually kill more than 150,000 men, women, and children. One day when Jehuu was 7, tragedy hit home. A foster child, Joseph, who Jehuu and his sister considered their own brother, was struck.
We were all in the house and we heard one of the soldiers say, F with this house and let's see what's in there, who's in there. And so they just opened fire on our house.
I don't know how this struck him. It went through so many things. It went through like a door, a chair leg, another door, and then went through his neck.
The family was forced to keep Joseph's body in the house for weeks before the gunfire slowed enough to allow them to bury him outside. With the violence growing worse, Jehu's grandparents took the children and fled.
You walk miles all day. You're lucky if someone's nice enough to give you a cup of water that everyone can share.
One of our neighbors that was going with us had passed out, and we had tried to pick her up, but the soldiers were like, keep moving, keep moving. So we left her, and when we came back, we had seen her on the side of the road. At that time, she was all like blown up.
In America, Benita had lost all contact with her family for 2 years. Liberian authorities would not allow anyone in or out of the country.
I cried every day, and I was wondering, did they get any food to eat today? I just was everything. You will have the worst things go through your mind at a time like that, because you're wondering if they're even alive.
Benita flew to a neighboring country and snuck rides into Liberia. She searched for her family day after day. She found them 3 months later.
I stepped out in front of the house, and my dad was sitting there. He go, Benita? Benita? I thought he was just gonna die. I was like, yes, Daddy, it's me. Yes, Daddy, it's me. And he's like, Benita? He could not believe it, and
everyone just went nuts. We ran out there, gave her a big hug, and she came, she brought us some clothes, some food.
It was a good feeling to see them, and to count them and see that everybody was there. Everybody was there. And then it was like, okay, we gotta get out of this place.
The family spent 4 days running through the darkness and hitching rides to freedom. Just before they left Africa, the family learned sad news.
We were sitting in the medical office when I seen the newspaper, and it said 500 Liberians killed in Sierra Leone, And I don't know why, but I just took the newspaper and I was going down the list, and I knew what I was looking for. I was looking for Jehu's dad's name, and boom, it was right there.
I was devastated. I just cried.
Jehuu and his sister landed in New York with their mother in 1992. Jehuu was 9, Mardia 11.
They were afraid at first when it rained and lightning and thunder. It reminded them of guns and bombs.
And then we would like try to go to find protection somewhere, and then my mom would have to be like, no, it's okay, it's okay.
While Jehu's friends in Liberia were forced to become child soldiers and taught to kill, Jehuu was able to play high school football, led his team to a state championship. He received a full scholarship to Michigan State. A happy ending to a terrifying story most would want to forget. Not Jehuu.
It's something I definitely want to hold on to because I feel it makes me a stronger person. If you got a bad grade or, fumble or something like that, it's not the end of the world. I could have not been here. It makes you appreciate life. It makes you appreciate things.
So you see that ESPN piece, and you've seen it before, I'm sure, but what's your reaction today, 2012, here we are at the Robert Jackson Center, and you see that, which was in 2004, I believe.
Well, it's, I haven't seen that one in a long time, but, that definitely takes me back and just hashes up emotional feelings. And this is the statistics, and that's what I find this, your end game is quite remarkable. You played at Clymer, you led the team for 4 straight Section 6 Class D championships, 4 consecutive appearances in the state Final Four, including an appearance in the state Class D championship game in '99, accumulated 100 career rushing touchdowns, all-time rushing leader with 6,559 career yards. As a junior, you gained 1,670 yards on 205 carries, scored 33 touchdowns. As a senior, you were the Western New York Player of the Year after you rushed 2,161 yards and 28 touchdowns. You were named the Class D Player of the Year by the New York State Sports Writers Association, Player of the Year by the Buffalo News and the Post-Journal. You were a 3-time All-State, All-Western New York selection. You were also named the Prep Stars All-Eastern team. You were deemed, as you were going into college, the 2nd best fullback in the nation. All from a guy from Liberia. Your story should be on HBO. It's an hour long, and I really want to flash back to born in Liberia. Talk a little bit about your mother. I mean, as you're living there, what was she like? Well, my mother, first of all, my mom's my hero. Like, I'm a big-time mama's boy, and anyone who knows me knows that. And every girl that I ever date, I tell her, if my mom doesn't like you, it's not gonna work. But she usually ends up liking them, so it's not a big deal. But she's a strong woman who just works hard for everything she has, and worked really hard to put us in the position that we're in today, my sister and I.
In Liberia, talk a little bit about your dad. What's your recollections of him?
I have great recollections of my father. He was, in politics and all that stuff. And all I remember is he would always have time for his family, no matter how busy he was. Every Saturday, me and him would go to the soccer game because we lived in Monrovia and we stayed probably a mile or 2 away from the stadium. And so every Saturday morning, we would go out there and go to the soccer game, and that would be like his nighttime right there. And so it was a great, and that's a great memory I have of him, and that's something I keep with me all the time.
What did he do with the government?
He worked his way up. First he was a chief of security, and he just kept working up in that fashion of the things. And I believe he had aspirations to one day lead Liberia.
Did your paths? I mean, the president at the time was Charles Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Did your paths ever cross his? Did you?
No, actually, the president at the time was Doe.
Was it
Samuel Doe? Yes, and paths did cross with Doe, and I think I've met Charles Taylor once before the war, mm-hmm. And
you know, he was a rebel guy, and so obviously he wasn't anybody that we had over for dinner. So that, you know, it was just a limited interaction with him.
Now, this will come clear here in just a second. Charles Taylor was the head of the rebels at the time. Your dad, working for the government, was dope. What was going on at that time which caused all of the unrest in Liberia?
Well, at the time, as a kid, you know, I didn't really understand what was going on, but I just knew, you know, you heard rumblings that some people were unhappy with the way the government was being run, and they were putting together like a small army to overthrow the government. And, you know, at the time we heard, you know, whispers of there's going to be a war, there's going to be a war. And as a kid, you sit there, you watch TV, you see war on TV, and it's like, oh, that's, you know, it's fun. Look at that, all that fancy guns and all that stuff. And we're seriously thinking, like, oh, and when the war happens, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But you don't realize, like, you're sitting here in America, you see a war, it's not in your backyard, it's somewhere, it's some country thousands and thousands of miles away. So you don't realize how, you know, impactful and how, you know, close to home is going to hit. But at the time, you're a kid and you play war and you do all that stuff and you're excited for it.
When did it come home to you?
It came home to me when we were outside playing and we heard a few shots and we didn't think much of it. And all of a sudden, there was just this eerie feeling going around. And my grandfather came home from work and they had captured him. They put him through all these questioning and everything on his way home. And so they finally let him go. And then my uncle came to the house, and then after my grandfather came home, we heard a few more gunshots, and so we knew it was like something was happening. Then my uncle came, and he had been captured, and they tried to get answers from him through torture, you know, waterboard and things such as that. And so he made it out of there, and he came to us. I remember this clearly. The only words that he would say was, "You guys just go inside, stay inside, don't come outside." And he left. And that was the last we saw from him for a few weeks. So at that time, and then everything picked up. So by nightfall, it was full out war.
And it impacted your immediate family directly with your, is it your stepbrother?
Yes. My family had adopted a kid, and we, you know, we're all family now. Consider him just a brother to us. We didn't even use the term stepbrother. We just said, you know, this is our brother Joseph. And this has gone on, like, the war happened, and my grandparents had a pretty big house. So my grandmother, she's a, you know, very religious woman, feel, you know, if you have something, you need to, you know, help others. So she would invite everybody into the house. Everyone that was walking out in the streets had nowhere to go. She would invite them in, make food for them, and everything. So we had a house packed full of people, and my grandmother owned a culinary school. So, and that was in the front of the house. It was a school building there. So the house was so packed with people that there were probably like 8 of us, you know, cousins and family members. We said, we're going to go into school because it's cooler there and there's more room. And that's where we were when we heard the soldiers walking, because every day you'll see soldiers walking down the street. You look out your yard, you'll see a machine gun, a tank sitting in your front yard. And that's when we walked out. We went in there and we heard the soldiers saying, you know, let's see what's in here. And they opened fire on the house. And, you know, I was pretty much from me to you when Joseph was shot in the neck. And, you know, at the time I was 7 years old, you know, looking there and seeing a family member, you know, killed right in front of me there.
Were these soldiers, were they the rebels or were they government? Was it just, was it confusing?
It was the rebel soldiers. Because they were the ones just going around looting houses and just taking whatever they could. They'll come to your house. They'll run you out of your house, take over your house, wear your clothes. They didn't care. Men would be wearing women's clothing and all that stuff. So it was just the rebel soldiers just disorganized and just try to bully their way for whatever they wanted.
You were living with your grandparents then, right?
Yes.
Your mother had already left?
Yes, she was already in America at the time.
And your dad had also gone to Sierra Leone, right?
Yes, he and a lot of the government officials, they separated from the families because that was a way to protect the family. At the time when you're a young kid, you understand why your dad's leaving you, but when you look back at it now, he was doing it to protect you. It was because if they would have found him with us, what's to say they weren't going to kill all of us.
And that's because he was a government official. He was part of the Samuel Doe, did you say?
Yes.
And why Sierra Leone?
I'm not sure why they went there, but that's where they sought refuge there. But I'm not exactly 100% sure why they picked there. I know it was a very close neighboring country to Liberia.
And your mother had gone to the States to try to get a visa?
Yes, she was in America trying to obtain visas for us, and it was also hard for kids because we were trying to figure out, why isn't she here with us? I honestly remember thinking, this is sad, but I was thinking, does she not want us?
Mm-hmm.
But didn't realize that she was out there looking for us, and she, like the video says, she left America one day, just picked up and said, I'm gonna go find my kids, and went door to door for 4 months looking for us. And she would get to one house and people will be like, oh, they were just here, you just missed them. And so she would go to the next place and same thing over again.
Then the reunion occurs.
Yes, the reunion occurs. She comes to that because we pretty much did a full circle. We left my grandparents' house, we walked, we'll probably walk about 9-10 miles a day, going from one refugee camp to the next. And en route to all those refugee camps, we're literally stepping over dead bodies en route to those refugee camps. That's probably like one of the craziest experiences I've ever encountered in my life. To be seeking refuge and literally stepping over dead bodies to do that. And people ask me, like, were you scared? I honestly don't remember being scared because I don't feel like we had time to sit and be scared. Because en route to those, we had these backpacks with sleeping bags that we would, when we get to refugee camp, pull out a sleeping bag and set up camp. And there will be times where we open our backpacks and you see bullets in them. The only thing that saved us was the backpack that we had on our backs. So, like I said, you didn't have time really to be scared. And another quick story for that is, we're all walking and my grandfather, he's just like, I'm hit. And my grandmother, she, we didn't know where he was hit, what. We're like, are we gonna have to just leave him here? Because we already saw our neighbor who just passed out and the soldiers pushed us off her. So, but thankfully it was just, he got shot in the lower leg. And my grandmother was the one to pull the bullet out, and she was wearing a bandana and she tied it around his leg, and we had to keep going. We couldn't just say, oh, let's go to the hospital or anything like that. We had to just keep going.
Where were you going to?
We were going to a different refuge. We left Monrovia. We were in Buchanan at the time, and we were going to another refugee camp.
Was that your decision, or was it sort of a group decision of trying to keep yourself out of harm's way?
It was just, the family felt the best way is just to keep moving. Mm-hmm. Don't stay somewhere too long.
Were you marked because your dad was a government official?
I felt, there was something with that, and because back in Liberia at the time, the Caulcrick name, and because my father's name was Blamo. And through all that, we had to change my name to my mother's maiden name. Instead of going with Blamo, it had to be Caulcrick. So that's why, so I felt we did have kind of a mark on us, because back to the story, backtracking a little bit to when my brother Joseph was killed, we had to leave him in the house there for days because the fighting was so intense out there. And when the soldiers finally came to our house to loot there, my grandmother's just had enough and she just went off on them. And I don't know if you guys ever seen like the Tyler Perry movies, Medea. That was like my grandmother. She just went nuts on them. She was like, "You killed my son," and and so they made, first of all, they made all the guys take the shirts off, because there was a certain tattoo that members of the soldiers would get. So they were checking to see, and so basically she went off on them. They left, and we had the opportunity to take my brother and we buried him in the backyard.
So you ultimately, amazed that your mother caught up with you. How did she even?
Yeah,
you're a moving target.
Right, and like I said, we went all the way around, and we came back to my grandparents' house, and I believe she was just always one step behind us everywhere we went, because she would go to this place and they'll tell them you just missed them. And so when we finally came back to my grandparents' house one day, things had settled down a little bit, and this cab pulls up in front there, and my grandfather was up front, and he kept screaming her name, and all us kids went running up there. And I remember she had 3 suitcases. She had suitcase with like clothes and food, and then she also had this giant suitcase full of cigarettes, full of Camels. That was the first time I've seen cigarettes, so at first I thought it was like cookies or something. So she was like, no. So then I asked her what the cigarettes were for. They were to bribe the soldiers at the checkpoints that she went to, because they would literally, women were getting raped at the checkpoints. We saw things such as, pregnant women being like cut open right there, and it was just, there's just little things, like sad things like that you witness as a kid, as a 7, 8-year-old, that that you feel like, I don't care how old you are, no one should have to experience something like that. So that's what she used to bribe the soldiers. And then we went to the embassy, and she went there, told them, hey, these are my kids, I'm trying to get visas so we can go to America. They're like, no, we don't believe you, they're not your kids. So we leave. The next day she goes back there, same thing happens. So finally, after doing this for about a week, 2 weeks, she goes to them, this guy's sitting there, he's like, no, we can't do anything, they're not your kids. So she's like, well, if you don't believe they're my kids, I'm going to leave them here with you. She turned around and acted like she was going to walk out, and this guy looking at these 2 kids, what's he going to do? He's like, oh man, look, we can work something out. So we did that, and we were in Buchanan at the time. We snuck rides through the checkpoints, went to Monrovia, got on the plane, and landed in JFK. The first thing I did when I got to America was throw up. I ate so much on the plane that I got and I just ran to the bathroom and threw up. And we got a connecting flight from JFK to Pittsburgh, and came to Finley Lake.
Now, had your mother married? Or
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Is that how the connection to Finley Lake occurred?
Yes, because the guy that she married knew some people in Finley Lake, and he worked with the guy that built the house, this Keith Shade, so he bought the house from him, and that's how we ended up in Finley Lake.
Monrovia, New York, Pittsburgh, Finley Lake. How old were you when you got to Finley Lake?
I was 9 years old. Yes, it was the summertime, so school was out, and the very next day, my neighbors came over, good friend of mine, Victor Gordon, the Gordons. They came over and we went bike riding. You know, that was like so cool. You know, like I didn't have to worry about, you know, where my next meal's coming from. You know, if I'm gonna get any sleep. But also too, it was also sad because I know I left my family back there too. I had grandparents, cousins, and everything there.
There aren't a lot of African American people in Clymer, New York. What was reaction? What was your reception?
Well, it was always good. It didn't really get any negative reactions. I just remember, like, you know, like talking to people now, I was like, so what happened? Like when you guys found out, you know, we were coming, and then they were like, just like, oh, we just heard, you know, there's a black family that moved in. So that was it, you know. So it was a great community growing up in. You know, I wouldn't, you know, trade it for anything. It was a lot of fun. Made a lot of good friends. Met a lot of great people. A very good support staff there.
You wanted to play soccer, but
Yeah. I grew up playing soccer, so I came to America and said, yeah, I'm gonna play soccer. But Clymer, being the big metropolis it is, wasn't big enough to have a soccer team. So I played summer league soccer in the summertime and loved it, did great at it. But then all my friends started going to football practice and I had nothing to do. So I knew nothing about football. The only thing I knew was Terrell Davis. He was a running back and had the number 30. And one day I went and I said, hey, I want to be Terrell Davis. I want number 30. And they're like, okay. So first, I remember the very first game, JV game, we played Panama. And my first carry was a 62-yard touchdown. And I was like, yeah, I guess I could get used to this. But, you know, it was a little hard at first because when my grandparents and everyone found out, you know, I was playing football, it was like, oh man, like, well, you know, did I, you know, do something wrong to the family? They're going to disown me. My grandfather kept calling me, you're not playing football, you're playing handball. But they got used to it, and it was, you know, I had a great time playing.
yeah, I would say so. As we identified, what you did at Clymer was nothing short of miraculous. Your coach at that time was Howard McMullen. Talk about Howard.
Oh, Coach Mac's a great guy. He's, up until now, he's like a father figure to me, and he would do things to protect me at the time that I didn't know that he would do. For example, when I first started playing, I went to it was, you know, he didn't just want to just throw me in there. Because to him, he knew I could be there and start. He wanted to just wing me and work my way in so the other people didn't feel, you know, slighted or any way, and they didn't take it out on me. But because, you know, it's not just Clymer, it'll be anywhere really, you know, people get jealous. So, you know, because I remember when I started having success and I took this kid who was a senior, I started becoming the starting running back as a freshman. So him and some of their buddies decided it would be cool to pee all over my pads and helmets and everything. So, I mean, it's like, so Coach Mac, he wanted to end the season right there. And I was like, Coach, no, if you end the season, they've won. You know, so let's just, you know, move past this. I'll be the bigger person. And, you know, up until now, that same guy that did that, I ran into him a couple years ago, and he's with his girlfriend, and he's introducing me, like, we're buddies. He was like, yeah. And then he had the nerve to say, yeah, I helped this guy out. You know, he helped me. And I just looked at him, and I was like, you were helping me out when you pissed on my pads? And I just walked away. You know, there was nothing else to be said there. You know, I'm not holding a grudge or anything, but I mean, So yeah, but I mean, like that, like I said, Coach Mack, he's a father figure to me, total father figure. He wouldn't let things get to my head. He wouldn't let success get to my head. I didn't even know I was being looked at by colleges till the end of the season, and he comes with this big box full of letters from colleges because he just wanted me to enjoy football, have fun with it, and he, like I said, truly father figure. He's the one that always told me, make sure you get your degree, make sure you get because they can take anything away from you, but they can't take that away from you, and that's something that stuck with me all through.
You got this box of letters, and you start to rifle through them. What are you thinking? Right now, you've watched TV, you've watched the football college games, but now all of you, they're coming after you.
Yeah, it was a tremendous feeling because nothing like that's happened to me before. Nothing like that's happened to the Clymer community. To be there and you have whispers of, oh, there's a scout from Syracuse here, there's a scout from Michigan State here, so that was pretty cool. And but the thing about it was I didn't go into football thinking I'm using this to get me somewhere. I just went into it thinking I'm gonna have fun playing football with my friends. And then once I started to get those letters, I was like, well, it's a way to get a free education. That's how I looked at it, as a thing of, if nothing, I didn't look at football as I want to get to the NFL, because when I was younger, you asked me what I wanted to do. I just wanted to have a job that I wore a suit and tie to work every day. That's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to play on the company softball team, go to happy hour. That's it. I was happy with that. I was content with that.
Probably all would be.
So, that's all I wanted to do. I didn't, think, playing in the NFL. So I got those letters, and, I still didn't take them seriously. I, just decided, what, I'm just going to have good grades, and if this works out, it works out. And I happened to get a scholarship to Michigan State.
Who else was in the running?
Well, I got offers from every Big Ten school except for Michigan. Notre Dame, Pitt, Syracuse, Maryland, and Rutgers.
Ultimately, why Michigan State?
Michigan State, the guy that was recruiting me, Jeff Stoutland, the recruiting coach, great guy. I formed a relationship with him, and he also preached academics. And in that, in the first meeting, he promised my mother that I would get a degree from Michigan State, and so she loved him for that. And then I just went there, and I fell in love with the campus. It was, a great, because the biggest thing I looked for in a college was I wanted to go to a big school, but I wanted a college town. So Michigan State had that.
Lansing's wonderful. And you had a nickname, a couple of them, in fact, Thunder. How did we get Thunder? Maybe it's obvious.
Well, Thunder is because we had shared the workload as running backs. So the other guy, Javon Ringer, he was supposedly the speed guy. Nah, he was. So he was the fast guy, and I was supposed to be the bruising back. So we were Thunder and Lightning.
As you played the Big Ten football, now you're ratcheting things up a little bit. What was the biggest difference from Clymer Class D football in New York to all of a sudden Big Ten football? That's a leap.
Yeah. Well, the thing too, going back to, I don't want to backtrack again,
Oh, go ahead.
but
You're Thunder.
a lot of people, especially when word got out that I committed to Michigan State, a lot of people from the outside was like, "Oh, you're never going to make it there." Well, first of all, they said I wasn't going to make it anywhere by going to Clymer. They said I need to go to a bigger school. I need to go to Cathedral Prep in Erie. I need to do this. You're never going to, you play nobody, so you're not really good. So the same, once you get to college, where they get exposed. So I get there, and you get to Michigan State. Yeah, it's total. I go from, Clymer, where I graduated with 26 kids, there's K through 12 in the same building. I go from there to 50,000 students at Michigan State. I walked into my first class. It was stadium seating, had 600 kids and teachers using a microphone. I'm like, this is more than the whole school, you know? So, but, you know, I adjusted well. I found, my big thing was, you know, I always like to surround myself with good people. I like to have, like, you know, 3-4 people that I consider friends. I don't have a lot of friends. You know, like I said, I have 4 or 5 friends, and the rest of the people are acquaintances. Those people that I consider friends are the ones that I know I can call at 4 in the morning if I'm broke down on the side of the road or something. They won't ask a question or come and pick me up. Those are my friends. And the other people, yeah, I mean, we get along great. We're everything, hang out, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, no. But yeah, you know, I love the fact going to Michigan State, playing there, and you know, I guess my motivation was just to prove people wrong, prove the naysayers wrong. That's what I went by, and I happen to have success there.
I would say, you, in your senior year, you had 872 yards on 222 attempts, 21 touchdowns. Then, at the time, Michigan State University's single-season record. There's been a lot of players gone through Michigan State, and your name was right there. Mm-hmm. Then you met an also guy from, I know, probably don't know this name from your folks from Buffalo, but a guy named Ryan Miller. You want to talk about him?
Yeah, Ryan, he went to Michigan State as well, but he was older than me. His brother and I were the same age, and we would train together in the summertime because we would train. The football team would train with hockey team, and we'll just train, and then afterwards we'll go golfing and partake in a couple libations.
You were of age?
Yes, I was of age. And funny story about Ryan and I, so every summer he would come to East Lansing and train, and one day we left this bar and we're walking down this little alley. They're gonna go to this little Mexican spot, Qdoba or Chipotle, one of those things, and it's 2:30 in the morning, you're hungry, and this car's driving through the alley, and his lights were off. And so I just, simply being a good guy, it's like, hey, your lights aren't on, the cops are out there. This guy puts it in park, jumps out the car. Why are you hitting my car? I was like, dude, calm down. I was just trying to help you. And so it was me and, 3 other football players and 5-6 hockey players. So this guy's coming at, and then the football guys are the ones like, okay, dude, calm down. We're just gonna get some food. The hockey guy is taking his shirt. Let's go. You don't want this guy. So so every time we started training and stuff, and so Ryan, he stopped coming to East Lansing to train. So I was like, dude, why aren't you coming to East Lansing? He was like, well, I'm going to LA to train. I was like, what's her name? So then he tells me about his wife that he met, and he got married, and then his game started to go down a little bit. And then I'll call him, I'll be like, dude, it's because you got married. That's the reason your game's going down. But he's a terrific guy. He does a lot for East Lansing area there. He does a lot up in Buffalo there. A real chill, down-to-earth guy.
You were described as being more explosive and elusive than given credit for. You were funny too, the kind of player who sometimes referred to himself in the third person by his nickname, Choo Choo. And they said you're the kind of guy you look forward to seeing every day. Choo Choo?
Yeah. Choo Choo was given to me by, it wasn't my own nickname for the record, it was by TJ Duckett. He was a former running back at Michigan State, and he's a guy I looked up to, and his nickname was the Diesel. So one day he just came by and he gave me that name, Choo Choo. And the cool thing, the school ran with it,
And so, I had, like, if I had a run of 10 yards or more, this train comes on the big screen there. I was like, wow, this is really cool. But yes, I do at times, it's not in an arrogant way, I do refer to myself in third person sometimes. Like, if we're playing and I'll just look at the coach and I want to run the ball, I'll be like, choo-choo hungry. So, and I'll just look at him and, go feed me. So that way, it wasn't anything, like, I don't refer to myself in third person every time.
There is a story where you probably wished you hadn't referred yourself in the third person or the first person. You were playing Ohio State, and you really wanted to see how tough this linebacker was by the name of A.J. Hawk. Talk about that.
Yeah, you watch film, you see ESPN doing all this special on this guy, A.J. Hawk, and the Ohio State linebacking core, and so we're playing the game at home, we're on our 30-yard line going in to the student section, and I get the ball, and I could run straight and get a 30-yard touchdown, or I can be stupid like I did. A.J. Hawk had taken a drop into a pass coverage because it was a little draw play. So I'm running, and I swear to God, I'm thinking this, and I usually don't think during the games, but I'm thinking this as I'm running. I was like, let me see how good this guy is. So I'm going this way and then veer off into him, and he hits me. My ear pad falls out, my helmet's sideways. I'm on the field walking off with my helmet in my hand and my ear pad, trying to put everything together, and I learned a lesson. He's a tough guy. He's always advertised.
What was your biggest game?
My biggest game was when we played Wisconsin, and Scott knows this story. I'm very superstitious. So it was Wisconsin was 5th ranked in the country, and they beat us. They go to the Rose Bowl. They're coming to our house. ABC game, night game. They bring the lights in and everything. And a Thursday night, I go out, and this lady friend of mine paints my pinky nails. And so that following Saturday, we go out and I have the game of my life. We beat 5th ranked Wisconsin 49-14 or something like that. We take because they brought roses to the stadium. We take their roses. I'm in the student section throwing them up to girls and everything. And up until now, for being superstitious, I always keep my pinkies painted. But the thing is, I don't buy fingernail polish. I just mooch them off whoever I can find it from. Because I'll feel a little weird if I bought it.
Is this woman part of your world still?
No, she's not.
You then get down, graduate from Michigan State, several honors, and now potential is that you might, in fact, go to the next level. Mm-hmm. What was you thinking at the time?
Going into it, I didn't think about playing NFL till my junior season, because what happens is you have all these agents, they'll contact you. They're not supposed to do this, but they do. They'll contact you, they'll send letters and emails and everything saying, hey, because you go out and you put, if you're a junior, if you want to leave early, what you have to petition the NFL, and they'll send you back a grade saying, this is, if you left now, this is where you would be, what round you'd be drafted in. And so my junior year, I was projected to go in the 3rd round. And so, that's pretty good. But then I thought about it, I was like, well, I have one more semester, I have one class, and I play football. So I go to class every Wednesday and play football. And get a degree, for free. Why not do it? So I decided not to go out my junior year, and I stayed my senior year and had a great year. Had the funnest time playing college football that year. And came out in the draft, didn't get drafted. I was a free agent. I signed with the Jets, but at the end of the day, if they said you could do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. Because, like, I had Coach Mack in the back of my head, make sure you get that degree because they can't take it away from you. So, it's something that I have, that's mine. The NFL not for long, so that, that's something, that's a, big accomplishment of mine. I'm real proud of that.
Yeah, and on November 20th, 2010, you were called up by the Bills, and you actually got into the game.
Yeah, that was, and it just goes to show what a business the NFL is. I was in San Francisco with the 49ers at the time, and we played the game in London. We played Denver in London, so that was a great time. We were there for a week in London. I think I probably got about 27, 30 hours of sleep that whole week. But, we played Denver. We come back. We have a bye week. And, bye weeks, you go on vacation, do whatever. I did that. Come back in and working out on Monday. I'm done working out. I'm sitting in my locker in just a towel. And this guy, when you see this guy coming, you just put your head down because he's the Turk. He's the one that cuts people. So he just, you see him come in and you're sitting in a group of people, you're thinking, don't come to me, don't come to me, don't come to me. So he comes to me, hey, Jay, we need to talk to you. And I was like, oh, great. So I go, they're like, hey, we know we're going to have to release you. There's injury issues and all this. They give you a nice little speech. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what now? I'm in San Francisco. I have no family here. I have a place here. I just bought all this furniture, had my vehicle shipped here. What am I going to do? So I'm sitting on my couch, and 3 hours later, my agent calls. He's like, hey, did Buffalo call you? I was like, no. He was like, all right. 10 minutes later, 716 number calls me, and it's this country accent, and it's Buddy Nix. So it's about, 10 o'clock now. It's 1 o'clock here. I'm on a flight from San Francisco to Buffalo. I landed in Buffalo at around 7 o'clock. I was out in the practice field by 8 o'clock that day. So it was just, things just happened for, reason.
Next thing you know, you're in the game. Next thing you know, you get a first down, and it's just...
Yeah, to be honest with you, I was not expecting that because, we were down in the game, and Fred had a big run, and I thought he got a first down, and then so it was a end of the quarter or a TV timeout, something like that. And so my running backs coach comes, he was like, 31, fullback belly. I was like, okay. Because I thought it was first down. You don't run 31 fullback belly on 1st and 10. He was like, you ready? I was like, yeah, when? He was like, now. So I look up there and it's 3rd and 1. I was like, oh, okay. So afterwards, he tells all the running backs, and he says I was scared to go in there. So they were razzing me a little bit about it. But, it was definitely a great experience. The only thing I was thinking was just hold on to the ball and get this first down. And once I did, I had this big grin on my face, that I couldn't get off for a while. And we won the game, so that was also a plus.
We need you now. You think about this. Just from an HBO moment. Here you are. That you can almost sequence that scene at Buffalo against. You get this first down, and then flashback to a life which begins in Liberia and works its way through. It's an incredible story. And just a quick postscript, because we're going to open for questions for a second. But your dad working for the government. The rebels were headed by Charles Taylor, who ultimately became the president of Liberia. I think earlier, if you haven't met, you will meet Jim Johnson. Jim Johnson here, who was our president CEO, was the chief of prosecutions of Charles Taylor at the Sierra Leone Tribunal regarding all of the atrocities that Charles Taylor had done, in especially Sierra Leone. So there's an incredible connect between you, your personal life, your dad's involvement, Charles Taylor, the Robert Jackson Center, the prosecution and Jim Johnson, and Jim's right over here. I can't even call it serendipity. It just was meant to be. So I just wanted to postscript that for you, Jehuu, that this is a really magic for us. And we have time for just a couple of quick questions.
Just a quick question. I mean, he seemed like a really happy, well-adjusted guy. We're the same age. And I'm just wondering, I mean, what do you pull on for strength? You saw horrible things, and those people, it would just destroy them. So what is your foundation? What do you pull on?
Basically, my foundation is my family, my mother, my grandmother, faith, and all the things that I went through is something that I purposely keep in the back of my head, because I feel that truly makes me a stronger person. Because I don't, you can have a bad day, yeah, but at the end of the day, you have tomorrow to make up for it. And there was a time when I didn't even know if I had a tomorrow, so I use that as strength.
Great answer. Anybody else? Question? Yes.
I have a question.
Yep.
Have you been back?
Actually, no, I have not been back. I haven't had time since 8th grade. I haven't had a summer. This was the first time I had a summer to do anything, so I did a lot of golfing. But I'm actually trying to go back next year and do a football camp there.
How do you feel about going back?
Oh, I'm excited to go back. Yeah, I have family there, and things are rebuilding, and very excited to go back.
Talk about your mother and sister.
Like I said, I'm family. Like those are the two women in my life. I talk to my mom twice a day. I talk to my sister once a day, and they spoil me. They do. They really do. Like anything I want, they I don't know. They competing to see who spoils me the most. And I can't. Just great people.
There's a check over here we are giving to you, and I just to sort of modestly support your charitable work. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, it's this foundation that I work with in East Lansing, Michigan. It's the Refugee Development Center of Lansing. It's just a great foundation. It has a bunch of kids from all over the world, and they come in there. They go after school every day except for Fridays. They have help with tutors. They help adjusting to life in America, and once a month they have a pizza party, bringing a DJ for them. And so it's a great organization. And also the thing I like most about it too is it helps the families as well. It helps the parents. It helps them learn how to drive so they can get a job and be able to go to that job and not have to worry about public transportation all the time, and helps them with their English and all that stuff. It's a very, very good organization that I've been a part of since I was a freshman in college.
You're currently living, I mean, you're in Westfield right now, but are you normally in New York City? Is that home?
Yeah. I live in New York City and love it. But, it's a place where, being a single guy, no, family ties, and, it's a place that I can live, but it's not somewhere that I think I want to raise a kid, because I want to be able to, play catch with my kid.
Well, suffice it to say, this has been just a magical time with Jehuu Caulcrick, and I got a sense you talked about you had only maybe 4 or 5 friends, but if you opened up your Facebook to these 150 folks here, I bet they'd all be your friends tomorrow. So,
well, we can't now because I reached my Facebook limit. You can only have 5,000 friends. And I know each one of those 5,000. Every day I write them a message, each one of them. I'm joking back there.
And for those who do, in fact, if you can't become his friend, you can certainly get his autograph before the day is over up here.
I thought you were going to plug my Twitter.
Oh,
you can follow me on Twitter.
Tell them about
my
your
Twitter handle is Jehuu Caulcrik, JehuuCaulcrick. Tweet me.
We're going to applaud you. Thank you very much.
And any of you lawyers, I want to write a book, so give me your card.
Thank you, one and all. It's been a magic.